BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. This is a tour that I'm conducting through every book in my library, but I'm not in my library, so I'm conducting it through every book in someone else's library. In this case, the incredible library of Mark Richardson, of Richardson Reads. There are books. This is a very, very old house in Vermont, and there are books everywhere. And they are neatly organized. You can very much tell when you look around that this is the home of a library director. And I have chosen a book today that I guess I'm on some sort of a fantasy thread with the library tour of Doom. I've chosen a book today that I would love to find. I would love to own a copy of this in physical form, but I have a feeling, I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling that my belongings are going to be very thoroughly searched by the time I leave. So I will not be able to abscond with this volume. But oh boy, if you ever see it, it's a keeper. I've had it before, and I've never kept it. This is edited by Marvin Kay, and it is an anthology of weird tales, the magazine that never dies. A wonderful, wonderful, big, generous snapshot of weird tales, which I consider to be hands down the most influential pulp science fiction fantasy magazine of all time. I don't know. I'm curious to know that some of you are probably collectors out there. I often wonder on eBay or elsewhere what a complete original run of Weird Tales would cost a collector to buy, or whether or not they ever turn up. Not a lot of people who read Weird Tales almost 100 years ago thought to keep it, but a lot of them were diehard fans of every single issue and may have kept it. But one way or another, it was a magazine devoted to science fiction and fantasy, then mostly fantasy. And it was the number one thing about Weird Tales is how much it respected the intelligence of its readers. And that is wonderfully reflected in this anthology. This anthology is from, I think, the 1970s. When was this made? 1988. And it's terrific. And the table of contents shows you that. Now, when you get an anthology of collections from Weird Tales, you're going to expect to see certain names. You're going to expect to see two more than any other, H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, but lots of other things too. Weird Tales reprinted and printed lots of other authors who've fallen into obscurity, and also ranged all over the literary canon in search of the deepest roots of the fantasy genre. And the table of contents here really reflects that. I want to go through just a bit with you here of names that you will know and names that you won't know. Like, for instance, the very first thing is a little bit by Ray Bradbury, but there's also H.G. Wells. Robert E. Howard is The Skull in the Stars, which is Solomon Kane, but I don't remember off the top of my head if he's in here more than once. I think it'd be kind of odd to have Robert E. Howard in here without a Conan story, but they may have done it just to be a little bit on the odd side. Okay, they didn't. So H.P. Lovecraft is in here. Also, his story, He. There's also Edgar Allan Poe. Let me see if I can find you. Arthur Machen. Richard Matheson, who wrote I'm blanking on the name. I'm blanking on the name of the fantastic post-apocalyptic vampire novel that he wrote. Will Smith was in the movie of it. It's gone right out of my head, but he's known for that more than he's known for anything else. The story in here from him is Lost Club. There's Charles Dickens, Child's Dream of a Star. Also Ted Sturgeon, Clark Ashton Smith, who I believe is in this room. We've got Flaubert, in case Brian at Bookish wants to read this one. Also, an author called Seabury Quinn. Most of you won't know that name, and I think we can probably assume that he's never coming back into print. But Seabury Quinn is in here, and so is another one, August Derleth. They're both in here, with works that are just terrific. But there's also, Fritz Leiber is in here, and Fletcher Pratt, and Elsbreg de Camp. There's a short story by Harry Houdini that really makes you want to tell him not to quit his day job. There's a little bit by Bram Stoker. There's something by William Tenn, who's absolutely fantastic and now totally forgotten. But there's also a translation of a bit from the ancient author Lucian, a story that many see as the origin of the famous Sorcerer's Apprentice gimmick, where the Sorcerer's Apprentice, made famous in Fantasia, but where the Sorcerer's Apprentice loses control of his art and almost causes catastrophe. And the translation of that little bit of Lucian in here is translated by Sir Thomas More. And it gives you an idea of all the things that are in here. Just a wonderful cornucopia of stuff. A volume really to live with. This is a terrific anthology. Weird Tales, I had a spotty history. It ran into money troubles, massive money troubles, left, right, and center. Went out of usage for a while, came back into usage. Somebody wanted to revive Weird Tales. That didn't work either. Pretty sure that Weird Tales is now in desuetude. I don't think that it's an active concern at all. I often wonder. I've wondered when I saw this book. I've often wondered when I see reprints in other anthologies. How much for the picking Weird Tales is? Could somebody revive it? Is it owned? Is the ownership of some sort of periodical called Weird Tales, is that in somebody's possession now? I often wonder what that would be like. But in the meantime, you have one of Weird Tales' many fantasy zine progenies in Weird Mask, a fanzine, an old-fashioned mimeograph stapled fanzine put together by Matt Wall of Paperback Junkie, another booktuber. Plenty of issues of those are extant, and some of them star yours truly. But anyway, I had to show you this for the Library Tour of Doom, because it's a well, I would say it's a keeper, but I don't get to keep it. If only Frida had a secret compartment. But anyway, that's your Library Tour of Doom for today. We'll see where it goes next time. Thank you, BookTube.